Climbing is really hard, and sometimes we make it harder than it has to be. Here are 5 mistakes that climbers make with really simple fixes. By the end of this video, you'll be able to identify them all and fix them quickly. The first one is something beginners are prone to do, but even more advanced climbers fall prey to as well. And that's pulling too much with our upper body. You see, our lower bodies are so well designed when it comes to propelling us upwards that it's really just a waste of strength and poor technique to over-rely on our upper body. And yet most of us fall prey to it. When we pull too much, we exhaust our fingers, exhaust our upper body, and ultimately end up falling. But if we're willing to relax our upper body and really rely on our feet, we'll find that our lower body kicks in and allows us to climb with more endurance and grace. And this is something that can be fixed by our second major mistake, which is not looking at your feet when you place them. When you look at your toe as it goes on a hold, you form a mental connection between your mind and your foot that allows you to trust that foot more and thereby press off of it harder. The other thing is that when you have a stronger connection with your foot, you can trust yourself more to sink into that foot and explode off of it. And you know that it's placed correctly. The more that we can train ourselves and push ourselves to really utilize our feet and press from our lower body, the better climbers that we'll become. The third mistake is tied to this, and it's one a lot of beginners make, which is not using their hips enough. So when you rotate your hips, you open up a lot of possibilities. You can do things like twist lock, where you turn your body over a good hold, allowing you to put more weight on that hand and foot. You can do things such as a drop knee, which allows you to move your shoulder closer to the wall, but ultimately using your hips a lot and swiveling them as you go will allow you to create momentum, to maximize your reach, and achieve maximum stability in positions. You can start incorporating this during your warm-up. During your warm-up, you can start to really swivel your hips as much as possible to get them to open up and to maximize your reach. And what you'll find is that momentum and the direction of your hips really change how far you can reach by an absurd degree. So most of these mistakes, they'll start in your warm-up climbing, and if you address it in your warm-up climbing, you'll actually climb better throughout the day. So start incorporating these fixes in your warm-ups and you'll be amazed how far you can go. The next mistake that most people make is that they just don't read their routes. When you're reading a route, you can start to spot lots of potential opportunities and potential threats from the ground. So before you do any climb, and even after you've fallen off, make sure to assess, what could I have done better? What opportunities might there be that I'm not realizing? Effective route reading is something that has a compound effect. If you read a route, even if you got the wrong answer from that route reading, once you're on the wall, you've just removed one wrong possibility. So even if you had the wrong answer, you've already gotten that out of the way during your route reading, and so you have a higher possibility of finding the right answer when you're on the wall. The other thing is that route reading allows you to do more reps on the same climb with less physical exertion. So imagine this. You see this super cool project, you run up to it, and you get shut down midway. You're really frustrated, so you go again, you get one move further, and you fall off again. And maybe you go one more time, but ultimately you're exhausted and you haven't really learned much, other than what you learned while you were on the wall. But now imagine this scenario. You approach your project and you thoughtfully look at each position. You try and mimic it with your body, and as you do that, you start to realize things that you initially overlooked. When you go on the climb, you still fall at the same area on your first attempts, but you have a better idea of why. Since you know why you fell, you read the route again, and you start to look for possibilities to overcome that difficult section. And now on your second burn, you get to the very top, and maybe you fall, maybe you send. Either way, the key thing here is you knew why you fell, and you were able to make a change to address that situation. This doesn't just allow you to send this climb quicker, it changes who you are as a climber. You're now a more self-aware climber, and because of that, you can coach yourself better. To some extent, almost all climbers are self-coaches. So we need to be really aware. What are my weaknesses? Why am I falling? What am I often overlooking? And route reading isn't just about the climb that you're working on, it's about understanding yourself better as a climber and understanding climbing better as a whole. This can never start too early. Even if you're on V0 and V1, you can take time to analyze the holds and really look at them. And surprisingly, these skills will carry over for your entire climbing career. If you're climbing indoors, you'll actually probably see the same exact holds used again and again on different climbs. And what you'll find is there may be a hold that you really analyzed and studied from the ground on a V3 that ends up showing up again in like a V6 or V9 project. One of the biggest difficulties with route reading is that we want to rush into our climbs. We're excited and we want to get it while we're fresh. But that's the next mistake. Most climbers don't rest enough. If you're not resting at least 2 minutes between attempts, then you're not performing at your best. And honestly, you should try to discipline yourself to rest for up to 4 minutes between attempts. That way you can give it your very best. I am horrible at this. I always want to go and give attempt after attempt after attempt, but I end up getting exhausted and not progressing any farther. And when I actually take the time to sit and rest, I find that I send my projects at a much faster rate. So if you just take the time to rest and look at your project, really try and break it down and analyze it, you'll be amazed at what you can send. Something that I like to kind of key in on is my heart rate. And it actually works better for me to not use a heart rate monitor, but to actually key myself in to what is the sensation of my heart beating right now? How does my breathing feel? Because what happens is that also allows me to key into those sensations on the wall. And if I find that I'm rushing too much, it helps me slow down. If I find that I can move faster, it helps me be more explosive. But a lot of this comes from the self-awareness that we develop while resting. So don't overlook rest. Try and do enough of it and make sure that you don't have worse sessions just because you're being impatient. The rest is worthwhile and it will inspire you to try harder because you'll know that after this attempt you have to rest again. So I find that when I'm being disciplined about my rest, I'll try harder on my climbs, not just because I'm more well rested, but because I don't want to be bored again waiting to rest and send the climb. So try resting more and see how it impacts your session. Lots of these mistakes are simply solved when we really pay attention to what we're doing and how we're performing on the wall. And I think this is marvelous because it doesn't just impact if we send a climb or not, it actually dictates the kind of climber that we'll become. And when we have that level of attention and intentionality, we actually take the deepest level of joy from climbing, or at least so I think. So the next time you're climbing, try to be really present, try to really cultivate a deep sense of self-awareness, and try and start with all of these changes in your warm-up at a time when the difficulty level is lower, and so you can pay more attention to the nuance of what you're doing. I also recommend that you take the time to film some of your attempts. That way you can step back and critique them when you're off the wall. I hope that this was helpful. If you enjoy, please like and subscribe for more videos. Thank you for supporting the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.